everyone, and welcome to the Unicorn Wellness Studio featured member vlog. UnicornWellnessStudio.com is a membership-based online wellness center anchored in 30-minute mat workouts, a 15-minute monthly guided meditation, and a new and full moon tarot reading every month, all based and written in a 4-week cycle format in accordance to the current astrology and moon cycles. It's a community filled with incredibly unique souls sharing their personal magic in all kinds of ways. Each month I feature one of our unicorns and share the magic they generate in the world and why they get on the mat in meditation and tarot on a regular basis. We explore how Unicorn Wellness supports their expansion, healing, and empowerment and their particular brand of magic in the world, and how important this practice is to them and helps them share what they want to share with the world. Our featured member today is Tilita Lutterloh. Hi.
Hello.
I'm going to read a section of your bio because it's so yummy and so deep. Okay, so here we go. So that our members and our community get to know even more, but this is like the structured version, right? Known by her peers in the sports and fitness world as a gold digger, Tilita Lutterloh, aka Coach T, sets ambitious goals and works diligently to achieve success. Hailing from Durham, North Carolina, Tilita has lived and worked in Washington D.C, New York City, and currently resides in Los Angeles. From the early age of 4, Tilita set her sights on operating in excellence, making it a consistent habit to go above and beyond what is expected of her. As an adolescent, she developed a deep passion for athletics, training, and competed as a gymnast for over 11 years before being introduced to track and field by a high school coach. Tilita later attended Howard University as a full scholarship track and field student athlete, where her long-standing school and conference record in the triple jump just recently got smashed. What is that about? We're going to talk about that.
Right.
Tilita has since competed across the U.S. for over 15 years as an unattached Olympic development track and field athlete, ranking as high as 8th in the nation in triple jump. She fierce, y'all. As a certified strength and conditioning specialist, functional movement screen practitioner, master nutrition coach, and Health Made Simple Pro, she has catapulted the health, fitness, and performance of runners at the high school and collegiate level, as well as competitive racing enthusiasts. Her expansive clientele also includes purpose-driven lifestyle athletes and curious newbies who love taking on big challenges and exploring what their bodies can do. You've been featured on Access Hollywood Live, Romper, KJLH is the front page with Dominique DePrima, Third Year Radio. I mean, on and on and on. And I will post these in the description below, right? So everyone will get to read all of it because it's too good not to read all of it. But we have you here.
Yes.
So we should just talk to you. How about that?
I like conversation so much better.
Right?
And actually, that reminds me, earlier this week, I was completing a written interview or an interview email style. And when I was answering the questions, typing out the answers was way harder than if we had just spoken.
I concur with that. I had a podcast experience where someone, because I was going to be a guest, and they'd sent me questions and they wanted me to answer them all. And I was like, aren't we going to do this? It took a lot of time.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So I love reading the bios of fierce women. I mean, come on, like, and doesn't it, let's be honest, doesn't it always sound nice to hear it reflected back?
Well, I was having a moment at listening, like, oh. It was a weird feeling hearing all that.
Right? So this is why I do it, number one, because we need to be celebrated. We need to hear how we sound to others. And then every time we hear it, there's always a lesson or some sort of awareness in it.
Yep. Oh, yeah. That's so true.
right? So, I mean, is there anything that it immediately kind of, I don't know.
Well, I would say, well, for sure. I mean, so many things, but for sure earlier, when you were talking about Howard and my record being broken, that just, I mean, yes, would we like to see our own records last forever and ever? Sure. However, at the same time, it would also be kind of sad, like nobody's gotten better. Like after.
That is the coach, right? She's like, you don't need me to come work for you? Because this is not.
Right. Right. So I'm happy, of course, that has happened. But it also brought up two things. One, I know this about myself, but again, hearing it, I am hugely competitive. Yeah, with others, but it is mostly with myself. I do have a high standard for myself, and I always want to do better each time. So that's one thing. It was just highlighting the initial reaction to it highlighted my competitiveness, but also how do I say this? It brought up, I don't want to call it negative, but that part of me and all of us want to feel seen, feel validated in some way, and having high honors or having a record or something, especially a record where it's on the books, and now it's not. I felt a little bit of a like, oh, so they don't know my name anymore, kind of a thing. And it's such a weird, like,
well,
why?
How long did you hold that record for?
Let's see. So I graduated 2002. Okay. Yeah. And so that was, and by recently, I mean, I think it was broken this past year. So not this year, but last year.
That's very recently.
So, yeah.
Well,
so yeah, it was a weird, like they'll forget about me or just, but anyway, but I'm establishing in other ways that I'm, stepping into my voice and in other ways. So.
And like, nobody's ever going to forget you, Tilita. I mean, come on. So I tend to share like how we met, like when we do these vlogs, and sometimes it's like people that, we just became a member and then we got to know each other, and like, Tilita and I've known each other for like 13 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because I have a 13-year-old and I had just given birth to him for the most part.
Yes, that's right.
What?
Crazy.
So, okay. Let's do, in your words, like, talk through. So we met, and in your bio and in your about yourself, you talk about working for Equinox, and that's where we met as coaches and trainers there. And that even seems like a lifetime ago, and it really was. It was 13 years ago. So we've talked about like this beautiful career and this process, but there's so much in it, right? So like you go from Howard University straight into training as for the Olympics, or like where I don't know these things, so I'm genuinely asking, like, talk us through your background because it's fascinating and I love it.
Gotcha. Let me see. So I'm trying to think. Well, if we go back a little, when I was 7 or 8, that's when I knew I wanted to be an Olympian. That's where the competitor in me was born. And this was as a gymnast. But that's also where the goal digger in me was born, and doing things my way. So there's a whole lot in there. I'll give you that quick story, and then I'll come back to New York and graduating. So when I was a gymnast, we're working on these skills. And at first, my mom put me in gymnastics just simply because I loved it when I saw it on television, but also as, recreationally a couple times a week. But it quickly grew into more than that because of how quickly I was absorbing, the coaching and these skills. one of the kind of foundational skills, a back handspring, we were working on. And I kept telling my coach that, oh, I can do it now. I'm ready to do it on my own. I can do it. And she kept telling me, no, you're not. And just, but I am. Like, I'm telling you, I am. even as 7 or 8 was one of those, like, it's one of those things where you just know it, you feel it, you know it, and I am a person, I like to follow a process. And I was following the process, but I also felt deeply, I can do this on my own. So one day after gymnastics practice was over, I go over to the corner of the mat. Everyone is going to their parents, like putting on their clothes to get ready to leave. And I walk over to the corner of the mat and I just threw my back handspring and I did it. And it was in that moment that it was just, I felt proud of myself that I did, and I knew I could, even when someone else was telling me no, that I'm not ready. And that's the moment that I say that the goal digger was born, the competitor in me was born, and just really stepping into my own, trusting myself, all of that was born. So now fast forward, not a gymnast anymore, but track and field, and knowing that I still want to be an Olympian because that's been a dream since I was a child, but now, maybe it's a different sport. And then I was excelling in that sport. So when I while I was at Howard, I knew that was a goal of mine. I didn't know what that looked like, training for that, or, but graduating, I knew, okay, well, I need to be with a coach who can get me to that level. And at the same time, I knew I wanted to live in New York for other reasons. So I was looking for a coach in New York. So yes, when I found that coach, it was like known from the beginning, this is my goal. So yeah, essentially, yeah. First step down on, the land of New York, training for the Olympics, yes. However, I had to work. Of course, I wasn't, and I'm, not a sponsored athlete. I had not gotten to that point. So yeah, I had to work. But I'm also a person who only wants to do things that I actually like doing, that I'm fulfilled by. And so the whole sports and wellness, fitness, all of that world, like, I wanted to be in. And so walking literally down the street and like, oh, Equinox, I've never heard of Equinox. And I walked in, I had heard of Crunch Fitness and all these other places, and I had put applications in, but then I walked in there and asked if they were hiring, but I started at the front desk.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Well, I started selling memberships like in my first, not at Equinox, but when I first started like in the fitness industry, same thing, because we resonate very similarly about like, I only want to be places that I like or that really resonate with me. And being in a gym environment and helping people, yeah, totally. So I love that. Yeah.
And I want to say it was from, what is that, 8 months, from November to April, I think that's 8 months, is when how long I was at the front desk before the personal training manager asked me, so Tilita, when are you joining my training staff? And I was like, and I was so, pleasantly surprised, but surprised nonetheless, because I actually at the time didn't think he liked me. And that's a whole, that's a whole other story. Only because I would mess up a lot of things at the front desk, and when it related to transactions that from members buying their training and stuff. And so I just thought, oh, he doesn't like me. But anyway.
It's 4:00.
Sorry if you heard that. But he had told me he had observed me in my own workouts, like when I would, be off shift and doing my own workouts that I needed to do strength-wise for my training. He had seen me and he was like, well, clearly you know what you're doing. So I'm just wondering when you're going to join my,
right? Like,
that's how that,
up here. Yeah.
And while I was at the front desk is when I was getting my certification for training and doing all that education stuff. And then finally made it official when he asked me.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. So, okay, I want to go back to, because how, relates in the unicorn wellness world into the community that's here. It's like you had such a connection to your own inner voice so early. I mean, like that story is like so, and it still stays with you, right? Like that they're telling me I'm not ready. And you're like, but I am.
Yep.
Like, but I know it.
Yep.
I mean, to me, that's like what we're trying to get everybody back to, of like being able to listen to that voice and go, I hear you. I respect whoever else is out there, whatever they have to offer. But I know where I need to be right now. I know what I'm ready for right now. And there are so many times that needs to trump, that needs to just take over our coaches, our mentors, our guides,
the authorities.
Yeah, there's the word I'm really like. And here you are 8, and you're like, I get it, you the grown up and the coach in the room, but you wrong. Like,
yes.
Do you attribute that to anything, or is this like it's just you? It just.
Oh, that's an interesting question. Because it's interesting because twofold, both that involve my mom. So she's the biggest, I don't even know the right word, influence, hero in my life. And as a single parent, like she and I are, and I'm an only child, so she and I are very, very, very close. And she's always told me, like every parent, of course, tells their child, you can do anything you want to do. You can do anything you want to do. But she also added on to that, you can do anything you want to do when you put the work into it, when you put effort into it. And I knew the process leading up to me feeling that way. I knew I have put the work into it. I have put the effort into it. And I'm pretty sure I feel comfortable doing it, even though the coach has been there spotting me this whole time. And she has always said too, anything that I have ever involved myself in, I have excelled at. And excel, of course, can mean different things to different people. It doesn't mean you are winning gold medals at everything you do. It just means taking that next step, kind of past the status quo, is what is for me. Even though status quo language, that I didn't know that at 8, but I just knew looking around at the rest of the people, I'm different physically. So as a gymnast, I'm only 5'5", but as a gymnast, that's tall. So I have long limbs and all that. So I'm already different in that way. Being probably, I think in that time, one of 2, I think, maybe 3 Black girls in that group. So I'm always different in all these groups that I'm in. So to me, it was just like, well, that doesn't work. Everyone just conforming to this thing. I'm already different. So let me tap into my difference and and just do it my way and see what happens. And really, that's the other thing, fast forwarding to myself as a coach, that's what I want to get people also to tap into, is not necessarily the readiness, even though that's what I was saying then. No, I'm ready. It's really the willingness, not necessarily the readiness. Are you willing to take a risk? Are you willing to take this next step? Are you willing to fail? Because there's a lot of learning in the failure too. Again, I didn't know that at 8, like, oh, if I throw this back handspring, I might not make it, but I'm going to learn from it. Well, no, I didn't know that. I just knew I want to do it. I can do it. Let me try it.
Well, it's powerful because I think even as a coach in so many ways, so, again, for the unicorn wellness community, they all come from different places and spaces. And I came from a theater background, but a dance background. So it's, you know, still like forever, like trying to get people to look at it as, you know, an athlete, that you're training like 6 to 8 hours a day for this to be your profession, you know? And so the mindset is similar to things. And that one of the things that I didn't know originally, right, is this power of like the willingness to be wrong also. Right? And at 8, you're not going to know that, but you were willing to be wrong because you're just going to march yourself out there in front of everybody. You're going to be wrong in front of everybody. Like, but that's such a powerful thing. And I feel like we're skipping ahead a little bit, but I came to dance late. So there was like a lot of things that I was behind on, you know, that just didn't have the practice and the hours logged that other people had. So I had to get comfortable real fast with being wrong, because I was never gonna learn it or catch up or be on par if I didn't.
Right.
But that's so brave, right? And such a big thing that I know you as a coach and as a human and as a woman, that you see that people just, one, they hear what they need to hear on the inside and they don't follow it. You know, or people are unwilling to fail or to fall or to be wrong, and therefore they don't ever get to that goal.
Right. Yeah. Like you will not get to the goal if you don't take the step, take a risk. You absolutely won't. And if you do, yes, you could still not get there, but you definitely won't. It's 100% that you won't if you don't take the step. Like, if you know it, yeah.
But we know the outcome if you don't.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, big, giant fast forward. Just share with us, you know, this like journey and process of aiming for the Olympics.
So that's also a big example of, you still may take the jumps and the leaps and still not make it. So, and that's been, I would say, the longest journey, longest lesson, longest moments of introspection and self-reflection is not having reached my goal. So I qualified for 2008 Beijing Olympics, and it was 3 weeks before those trials that I injured my knee and had to have knee surgery. So therefore definitely didn't heal in 3 weeks to get, you know.
And this is when you and I, around the time we met, which is why one of the main reasons, you know, because there was a stand and witness moment for me at how you navigated. That was like unbelievable amount of grace from the space that I could see it from.
Well, thank you, because it definitely didn't feel graceful.
I'm sure it did not. I'm positive it didn't.
It's, you know, all of those questions that come up because, again, I know I worked my butt off. I have a fantastic coach. I'm strong, agile, powerful, fast, all these things. I ate mindfully, you know, and very intentionally, nourishing, or at the time, of course, what we think is nourishing. I've made changes even since then, but and so the questions are like, why? You want to know, why did this happen? Not in a woe is me, victim-y kind of way, just I worked and it didn't work. Why? I want to know why, you know? And so during my recovery time, I had a lot, obviously, of time to think about that. And you learn a lot about yourself during times like that as a person. And I also learned a lot about myself as an athlete, that I do have a tremendous amount of drive, and a high work ethic. But because of that high work ethic, I'm willing to consider alternative things that I may not have been doing, or things I was doing that I don't need to do. I'm very open in that way. And I love thinking outside the box, which is again why I love my coach. He thinks outside the box. And so the answers that I came to on that time during that recovery time was that I was doing too much. The sexy parts that people see of high level athletes is, working so hard and doing all your strength workouts and all those reps at the track and running fast and all of that stuff, high intensity stuff, but neglecting the recovery pieces. And that's what I learned during that time. And not just recovery like, oh, I don't sleep enough, because I definitely didn't when I lived in New York. But even outside of sleep, when I was in New York, at one point I had 3 jobs at one time. Every day my commute was I lived in Brooklyn, I worked in Manhattan, and my training was in the Bronx.
Oh my God. People who don't live here don't know what that means. I just want to shake my head at you and go, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. And you just don't know, and I was still performing well, I was still performing great, but you don't know that, and that's because you're really young, so you can get away with things during it, but eventually, no, you can't get away with it. So when I moved here, no, I didn't have 3 jobs, but I was just still going with work and training, and just not a lot of attention to my downtime that wasn't sleep, like downtime or low intensity parasympathetic nervous system.
Love that phrase.
So that I was not, I would say the lowest intensity thing I was doing, I was definitely a yoga practitioner. I started that in New York, and I loved how it, made my hips feel open and stuff, but that was still only, I would say, maybe once a week, maybe twice a week, but everything else was still so much higher intensity than that. So my whole point is, during my downtime of recovery, that's what came to me. And I needed to somehow find a way to do less and nurture my body better when I got back to training, because that was definitely still the goal, to get back to training and to get back to that Olympic level. And I was doing great, actually. I felt just as strong. And then it happened again 5 years later. So now it's like, okay, I don't, it's frustrating, but at that point, my mindset was better, much better. So I wasn't down in the dumps as much as I was the first time, but it was still all the questioning, like, why? Same injury, same knee, same surgery. So, these step back, the whole take 2 steps forward, or take 1 step forward, 2 steps back, or whatever. And that's what it felt like. So now the questioning and the self-reflection is, well, wait, is this not meant for me? Like, am I not supposed to be a high-level athlete? Am I not supposed to be at the Olympics? Am I not supposed, I don't know. So I felt like I had one more chance to make this happen, because all this time now, I'm not getting any younger. I am. And even though I'm not that person who thinks that, oh, once you hit a certain age, you're done. No, not at all. But it definitely gets more challenging, and you just have to approach your training in a different way.
Sorry. Are there age parameters for the Olympics?
Oh, like a limit? No.
No. Okay.
Not that I'm aware of. No.
Oh, I just wonder, I don't know why I thought, I don't know. But yeah, because the training and the recovery and the process just becomes different.
Yes, especially the recovery. Yeah. So the recovery is the thing that kept coming up, that keeps coming up. Even though I was doing better things toward it, it still keeps coming up and will come up more as you age. Yeah. For most sports, but I know for track and field, there's definitely a master's, a separate master's category, not in the Olympics, just in general, that once you get to a certain age, people shift to naturally. But no, you don't have to. If you are still able to compete at that level, then yeah. And so one of the things that did help, and this was after the first one, was actually that's when I came to, not then known as Unicorn Wellness, then was Pimp Your Mat. That was one of the additions I made that absolutely helped me keep moving and strengthening the things I needed to strengthen when I wasn't able to be like on my feet doing all the high intensity stuff. And that was great, especially because you took the time to like, it wasn't, I didn't just do all the videos that you have, of course, in the library, but you took the time to create one that was specific to what I was needing at that time. So that was great. And I would, of course, because I don't know if this was the competitive person in me or just like trying to get back faster. I would do a few of the workouts back to back. Yeah. And that was the Pimp Your Mat workouts. And that would be like, yes, that was my session today. 3 back to back.
That's awesome though, because I love this. So one, like because the basis of my coaching and training is in Pilates, right? Comes from the dance background. But I didn't understand the value of Pilates until I busted my hip dancing. And so I think as an athlete in particular, right? Like this is like your whole everything. And then when the vessel is compromised, it is upending. And so Pilates, I mean, I had a different, because I hated it before I got injured. And I tell this story a lot because I think it's what makes me a good teacher, is because I hated the work. But when I ruptured my hip, I could not do anything else. I couldn't. And so the long reason, but like I was in my last year of college and I didn't have insurance and they didn't recommend any PT for me. Like they were like, oh, it's 6 weeks, you'll be fine. And I was like, I'm moving 8 hours a day. Like, what? And I got so sad and depressed watching class because I would just watch rehearsals and watch class that I started to take it to the pool and like started there. And because I kind of have to do things my own damn way too, apparently. Like what? But I love that because that is one of the beautiful things about a foundation of Pilates, because it isn't yoga and it's built for rehab. And so when you have these crazy joint injuries or injuries that you're like, I cannot train, I cannot go do what I was doing. And everybody's like, well, you go walk or you ride the recumbent bike. And you're like, really? That the mat work or studio work like keeps your brain busy, is still interesting in different ways, and that your temperament can hold 3 at a time. That's an hour and a half, right? But it still wasn't so much heat that it exhausted you. It was still supporting, but making you feel capable. Meanwhile, your muscles are completely atrophying the whole time.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like sanity saver. I love that you snuck that in.
And like you said, I did have physical therapy, but I have a thing about physical therapy.
You and me both.
But yeah, we won't go there. So yes, this was the perfect for it. Yeah.
And interestingly enough, like my background, I ended up having a lot of athletes that I trained, and then I ended up getting the athletes that people didn't know what to do with, and they couldn't do anything. So it was like, it was almost like the Pilates studio was like the slush, like, they're like, we don't know, go see Tandy, and I was like a younger, trainer at that point. I was like, I don't totally know either, but if you'll trust me, I know the foundation, like,
Yes.
let's just move cautiously together,
Yes.
Did you make a third attempt towards the Olympics after?
Yes and no. Yes. So, and that's where I would say that's where I'm at today in my questioning. And so this year, of course, has been a lot of things for all of us, but I was I wouldn't say I was as strong as the second attempt. Like, I mean, I was feeling so really, really, truly some of the best feelings I was feeling in my body. And that made me even more excited, like I said, because I was older. I was like, oh, this is great.
That's fair.
So I won't say this go around I felt that strong, but I was definitely still on the path to, okay, we can get there.
Yeah.
And so then to hear the news that Tokyo 2020 is being postponed because of the pandemic. So it was another blow to my hopes and dreams and goals. Okay. And what essentially was probably the last go. And I only say probably, just not at all that I want to, even I have trouble saying the words. I was talking to my coach about this last month. We were having a real conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm just having trouble saying the words that I think my track and field Olympic journey is done. I think. And that's as far as I can say now, I think, as opposed to I know, just because I can't bring myself to say that. But it's just being really looking at the bigger picture, and can I keep that up, that level of training, even though, again, I approach it in a different way, in a smarter way, but still, can I keep that up in my body for another, I would say another year, but at the rate we're going, I don't even think it's going to happen in 2021 either. So,
well, yeah. And this is just, I mean, that's a whole nother thing of like, what are athletes doing? And those, because there is this like training, there's a schedule to it, and you can't have never ending, because you need rest and recovery.
Yep.
And you can really screw some things up by trying to push through it and not having those rest. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And I'm glad you said that, because there was a time too, we as in me and my coach were like, okay, this is going to be a very telling time. And a lot of athletes actually were saying that, like on Instagram and stuff, this will be a telling time when we do get back to competition, to see who either was smart with their training, continued their training, adapted their training. Because as you have, I'm sure the Unicorn Wellness community is learning, being in Unicorn Wellness, about periodization.
Yeah.
And I had a few people say to me, oh my God, well, that's great. Now you have more time.
People don't know. You just shake your head and go, oh, no.
Right.
Not how this works.
Right. So it's a whole, if y'all don't know Unicorn Wellness, now you know, there is such a method to the madness of curating a program of your, whatever the goal is. You don't have to want to go to the Olympics, but whatever your goal is, it's still this undulating, periodized type of progress. Like, you build up, you have planned moments or times of recovery. You build up, planned like it's all for a purpose. And back with an Olympian or a potential Olympian or a world-class athlete, we have to do that over 4 years.
Oh, I was going to say it's a grand spectrum. Like it's a grand scale. So like to make this maybe more relatable or just educational, because I love educating about this, because one of the major things about unicorn wellness is that I try to educate a ton, but they still don't realize it. That they see online fitness and they're used to being able to pick what they want to do. And I'm like, no, you in my studio, and you're recruiting my help as a coach and a trainer and as a athlete to move you through things to actually get to results, right? And periodization is like number one. And it blew my mind because I managed group fitness for so many years. And then when things were moving online, I was like, ain't nobody doing that. This is super random and not entirely safe. Like,
right.
So on Unicorn Wellness, we have a 4-week cycle.
Yes.
You know this, but to run it home, what I've done is layered it with lunar cycles. So that we have 2 weeks that are moderate effort towards the goal. Then we have 1 week where it asks the most of your effort. This is at the full moon, because the full moon lends these energies towards us to synthesize and to use. We're awake and like got the extra energy. And then the week of the new moon is our restorative rest. And so like the rest and recovery week, and people come to this membership and they're like, okay, I've stuck with this longer than I've ever stuck with anything else. Why is this working when it seems like we're not really doing much, because they're 30-minute increment? They're like, what is happening? And I'm like, because there's a method behind the scenes, and because they're getting the recovery time to synthesize. And my big thing is like, no rest, no results. Because I blew, my hip out. I was in my 20s, because they're just going to drive. There was no conversation.
Right.
About recovery and rest. We did have Pilates integrated into our program as injury prevention, but there was no conversation at that point. And then as you become a coach, so let's talk. We're talking so much. We have so many times. Because there's 2 pieces I want to get to tonight, and I just looked at the clock. But as a coach, like as an athlete, you're sitting here describing like the recovery is what kept coming up, right? And for Unicorn Wellness and for like the magic makers and the spiritual aspect, what I find when people come to magical mentoring for coaching with me is that often one of the biggest questions is how to balance like surrender versus work, right? Willpower versus rest, the doing versus the perceived non-doing. Right? And how to honor the cycles, in particular as a female, whether we have a traditional cycle, a menstrual cycle or not, there's cycles to a person and a body and to the moons. And so there's times to work and then times to rest. And you have this topic of like recovery and rest, like continually coming up, but in weird ways where you're like, okay, but I am, and I have help and I'm adjusting. And then here's another. Okay, let's I want to skip because we have talked about it, because you're like, this is the thing that keeps coming up. But as a coach, because you help, like elite athletes and lifestyle athletes, and mostly with people learning how to run better, right? Because running is that thing that everybody goes, well, I'm just going to start running. And they go buy a random pair of shoes and they like, I'm going to run 5 miles today. Then they've pulled something, right? And they're so sore that they never do it again. Okay. And so you're like, oh, no, let me coach you through this. What part of rest and recovery, how much of that plays a role? Because what I find is ain't nobody know how to do rest and recovery. All we know in a toxic masculinity, patriarchal, colonized, culture is our work, effort and doing is our worth. So if I'm not striving and pushing, I'm unworthy and won't get to the goal.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. And I have to repeat that over and over, because also in my program, so I have an online group training program, it's 12 weeks. And so there are 3 phases within those 12 weeks. And in that first phase, actually in each phase, the 4th week is the active recovery phase. And I do have to explain, I know that what we are doing, not only in this first phase, but also during this active recovery week, probably feels like you're hardly doing anything. You've done harder things in your life, I'm certain. However, I need you, your body needs you to trust this process, because it is stepping you toward the goal. Okay. At least in a safer way. Because, okay, great. You might reach the goal, but if you're in pain all the time, that just doesn't feel good. And some people but some people do say the goal is more important. Like they're willing to sacrifice how they feel to get okay. Just know that you can do it longer. You can do it more if you respect this process. Yeah. This thing that you really want to get to and that you love so much, you can do more of it for longer if you respect this process. So yes, I hear you. And I am all about, and I've said before to you, one of the things that you and I connected on when we were working together and met is that integration of different styles. Regardless of what your goal is, there's no one way to get to the goal either. And it's important to integrate these different styles in a way that works for you. So yes, to be a better runner, do you have to run? Yeah, I'm reminded of my college coach, who actually, my first college coach, he was very old school. He did not believe in strength training. He's like, why are you strength training? If you want to get better at running, you go run. So yes, there is, of course, there's that validity to that. Right. But to support that so that you do it well are these other things that we have at our disposal, like strength work, like Pilates or yoga, or all the things that are out there. So even though I don't coach those, I'm not a yoga instructor and I don't coach Pilates myself, I'm always telling people, if I were to build out a program for you, I'm going to write those things in your program. Yeah. And help you find a way to incorporate those things. And so for this person's body, you might need 3 days a week of strength training, 2 days of running, 2 days of yoga. And when I say yoga, also people are wanting to do, power yoga. Oh, I get it. No. The reason I'm putting it in your program is not, we don't need more go. That's not what it's for. Right?
You and I are right here on that. Cause power yoga and was part of my journey of discovery of it just blew my system out. It was way too much for this autoimmune body and the stages I was at, and I didn't know. Right. But yeah, their concepts are our concepts of movement patterns and formats tend to be from this PR and now Instagrammable point of view, right? But as a coach and things I'm trying to instill in my kids, it's because they'll, just as people, what's the best thing to do for this? And I'm okay, we have this conversation all the time at the dinner table. And I'm well, what's the goal? Yes. Right? And what are the things you're working with prior? So when you're talking about physical vessels and physical bodies, because people will come and go, well, don't I have to do 1,000 other things like the unicorn wellness? You can. Right. If you want to, if that resonates, if your body, but again, what's the goal? For those of us with autoimmune systems, we really should not be having movement patterns past the 30-minute mark, in particular in initial stages of healing, right? Yeah. So for us, no, you don't need to do, please don't, because that's not going to work. Right. Right. Exactly. And for others, you may need to, and I'm the same thing. There's no one way to get there, but whatever format you choose, get an intelligent coach. Yes. And there's a lot of good coaches, but not just because somebody's a teacher or a coach, it actually doesn't mean they're great at it. Right. It's true. And so you still have coaches who will do what people want, is to drive them and not integrate additional formats for the rest of the recovery stages to support the joints to support those tiny stabilizers, because those are the things that tend to go when we're in injury.
Yes, exactly. And oftentimes people don't believe me, some clients, when I'm sharing this with them or telling them that I recommend that you add these things. They're like, you don't do this. Like, someone training at the high level you are, you don't do these things. So why are you telling me? Well, first of all, I do, but
don't tell me what I do.
And so I know firsthand how it has helped me. So but second, also, your goal and my goal aren't the same. So me telling you to do these things, I'm incorporating them in a different way than is incorporated in my own program, but the purpose behind it is still the same, like everything you just shared.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you said about what is the goal. And that's part of why I've become, or known to some people as, the hashtag goal digger, because I'm always I love talking about goals and I love setting big goals, but that is one of the things that has to drive the work. Otherwise you are just doing these random things and
then being angry, and then like, none of it works. And it's like, whoa, hold up. Do not, like, yes, but you have to know how to use them.
Yes.
And I don't want to waste time. I mean, part of, like, for me and my offering at this stage, part of it initially when we launched was that you and I met in a very high-end facility with very elite clients and wealthy clients. And that didn't resonate as totally valid for me at a certain point, where I wanted it to be accessible. It's like, okay, great coaches are really great, but they're also really expensive.
Yep.
And so, yes, we definitely deserve excellent pay for excellent services, but we also want accessibility. And so, again, that the difference between training with a really good coach, all the lights go on.
Yes.
I think that's always been my experience too. And like, it changes how you approach your body. It changes the results that will come from it. And then you learn trust and the cycles of things. That's why I love working with the physical vessel, because it'll just teach you so many lessons, right?
Yes.
That the offering online was, for those of you who don't know, on Unicorn Wellness, like, the goal really is that I'm training too, right? Is a balance of mobility and strength, right? That's the general end goal. And so everything we're doing is that, in accordance to the cycles, but also to balance the energies at play. So there's an end goal there that everybody's kind of like, now they just go, I just show up and press play, it's fine. But but as a coach, when I was really working one-on-one, you need to go, do you want to run the marathon, or do you want to win the marathon? Or do you want to be able to walk the 5K and push the damn stroller and not be winded? All valid goals.
Exactly. Oh, that's so funny that is the example you use, because specifically that is what one of my clients, how many years has it been? I forget how many years it's been since we trained for the LA Marathon. Okay. And when she said to me, okay, I want to run the LA Marathon, I said, why? And she looked at me.
When you train for one, it sucks. Right. It's awful. Okay.
Right. And she looked at me like, what? Like, a coach, why would she be asking why? She should be excited. Oh, great, we're gonna train you for of course I'm excited for anyone who really is willing to work toward a goal. Right. But I'm asking why, because that will help inform me as your coach. One, really where your underlying motivations are, one. And then I ask, and what is the specific goal around the marathon? Do you have a specific time goal? Are you wanting to cross the finish line? I want to be able to cross the finish line. Are you wanting to come in top 10? Are you, that also informs the actual program that I designed for it. Because there's no use in me, if your goal is to cross the finish line. I want to be able to say I crossed the LA Marathon finish line. Me doing mile time trials and pushing you on the track for speed work and doing that, it doesn't really make sense to push you in that way. there's a different way in which I will push you and design your program to make sure that you feel good in your body to cross the finish line. But that just looks very different than the person who tells me, I want to run 3 hours and 13 minutes and I want to come in top 20 in my age group or whatever it is. And again, like you said, all valid goals. I, as your coach, just want to know those things so I can be more specific and customized to you and serve you the best that I can.
When you made a transition into coaching, so like reflecting back on moving from the front desk onto the training floor, did you always like coaching other people?
In general, yes.
Okay.
There were some, and I don't mean this to sound however it's going to sound for those who are listening.
And if it's not safe, it's too bad for that.
But I also quickly learned the type of people that I don't like coaching. And it's just simply, again, you don't have to have this high level goal such as the Olympics. I want to work with people who want to be better though, who just, are not satisfied with the status quo.
Yeah.
Whatever that means to you. And that's but yes, to answer your question, yeah, I love coaching people. I love seeing when the lights turn on, like you said. I love seeing that progression and being able to, this cue that I gave you helped. Like, that's, and I get just as excited, probably more so, when someone hits a milestone than they do. So yeah, I love that. And the bigger implication of the work that I do or of strength training and how it crosses over into their everyday life outside of the gym, I love that. I want people to have goals that they're excited about, that fill them up and empower them in this way to take on bigger challenges in their life, whether that is to ask for a raise or how that feeling of one, I'll tell you, I think, you know this, that one of my secret goals for all of my clients, whether you've told me this is your goal or not, is to be able to do a body weight pull-up.
Yeah.
That feeling of being able to pull your body up using your arms, pull your chin up over a bar, that's a difficult movement. And when someone gets that, it's so, I don't even know the word, but watching it happen is like,
I stumbled into coaching and training and teaching, but it is those moments where you see people do something they haven't done before, or it makes, that it's like, it's so exciting. And I think that the best coaches are so driven by that and really good because of that, that it's like their successes are your successes, but it's not about that. It's that excitement of, I don't even know how to describe it either, because it's a little bit like falling in love. Like if you have to ask somebody, what it feels like, then you've never done it. It's like, I don't know, like that pull-up. We've actually talked about that pull-up moment because it's a very unique one. And for me with clients, it's the push-up, right? Because most people think it's so complicated or so, and it's an important, it's hard. But for women, they see a full push-up and they go, oh, I can't. I'm like, it's just an elbow bend.
Yes.
And their brain goes, okay, I never thought about it like that.
I love that.
Right? And I'm like, but because that was a big deal for me too. And then you get to a place where you can, whatever. Yes. All the yes, all the yes, all the yes. Okay. Let's do it. Yeah.
I'm just realizing now my lighting is horrible.
It's okay. I still see your beautiful face.
Okay. I'm just trying to think, would it make it worse or better if I turned on a light?
Try it.
Let me see.
We'll try it. Yes. I'll take it. I mean, we talked all the way around it, but let's just head back into it just specifically a little bit. That, like you said, your clients are like, you don't do this, right? And I have always loved that you've been a member, you know, like as it speaks to where you need to be, right? But from the very beginning, and that we work together in the studio first, and
Oh yeah, yeah.
Great compliment to me to have you, right? Like that people don't believe that you're doing it, number one, and then they're like, well, why would you do that? And you're like, why are you not? Why is this even a conversation? Like, how does unicorn wellness and the work on the mat speak to you, you know, in the work that you're already doing? Because you're an elite like trainer, and people assume you don't need anything else and that you don't need anybody else.
Yes. Yeah, that all of the time people are definitely surprised that I have other coaches.
Right.
For sure, accountability. So yes, I am self-motivated and very driven, but there are always moments where I don't want to work out, or I don't want to. But I'm able to, not wanting to, and can also be different than listening to your body and it really, is not the right thing to do. But sometimes I don't want to get out of bed. Like, I like my snuggly bed. Like, that's so for sure, having coaches, or anyone having a coach, accountability is key. But also another set of eyes on me is absolutely necessary, because my coach picks up on things that I'm not going to see, or that not jaded is not the right word, but just, I guess, probably biased of myself am missing, like something that I'm missing or not seeing. So that's another part of having the coach. And then specifically with Unicorn Wellness, and actually one thing I will say, I haven't even taken full advantage of all that Unicorn Wellness has become. So I'm excited to do that. I really am wanting to. But the few readings that I've been on, that to me is so interesting, how energetically, universally and energetically, how that contributes to what is happening right now. Yeah. I think that's just so interesting. And if it can help me even more inform my process in my high performance, then yeah, bring it on. Like, yes, that's because it still goes to, there's no one way to do something. So just because you might have, let's say, Jackie Jonah Kersey, if y'all know who that is, you look at any of sports figure that I look up to, and when you're younger, you might think, I have to do the exact way they did it, like what path they took to get there. Okay, let me study them and do that. There's a base foundation level where that is true, but not everything. And I think energetically that helps customize your process even more. Yeah. Because we are all at different places in our bodies and our minds. And so if I did follow exactly Jackie Jonah Kersey's plan and how she got there, it probably wouldn't serve me. Right. Sure, I might feel strong, I might get faster, those things, but it probably wouldn't serve my body and the things that my body already brings to the table, or if that makes sense. Totally. So adding these other elements, especially even on a competitive level, adding these elements that the majority of athletes are not doing is also what draws me, I would say, to this too. It's just a unique element to add to my training. And then physically, again, where I've used it mostly is, again, in that active recovery period of my program, like within a month or a couple months cycle, but also within a week, within that week, what couple of days are the lower intensity days, but I still want to be moving my body and tapping into all of those smaller stabilizing areas of the body. And that's just so valuable.
I love it. This is like kind of like one of those little whammy questions, but it's not. It's out of curiosity. So when you talk so much about coaching, right? And we still in a space of speaking of somebody else's eyes on you, right? Because that's always helpful. But for Unicorn Wellness, like I'm not there with eyeballs on you. How does that feel? Or how do you feel like it, I don't know, like what is, I'm not sure. It's not a full question, but do you understand what I'm poking?
I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
I think so, because, or at least my initial response to that is because you are someone who's very in tune with your own body, someone who has been coaching others for so long.
Yeah.
And so the cueing that you bring, what's the word I'm looking for? Not it relates. It's valid for me in the moment still, even though you're not seeing me move. It's almost like, oh, how'd she know my shoulder wasn't back there? But, and then I'm looking around, wait, is she looking at me? What? I don't.
I know, long before it was woo-woo, right? Like, because, and because that's a lot of some people's questions of like, well, it's not personal training and you're not there with your eye on me. And then that just speaks to both like the longevity of how many bodies you've coached to you as well, right? Like how many bodies have you coached? How many, like you just know,
Yes.
where the body's going to get tired. You know where people tend to support from, right? Yeah. And if the cueing and the coach is really good, it's just their, I don't know, cosmic eye on you is enough. Like, I don't because you are so clear about, Tilita has coached me before, and we've also had phone calls about like, okay, same thing. Like I also have a strength and conditioning background, not, and so it's like, yes, I could make my own programming. And when I feel off, like I did this 60-minute consult call with you about cardio because I was like, let's be honest, that is the last thing I want to do. And I don't like it. Yeah. And I don't want to. Yep. And I just need somebody as a good, student. I just need somebody to tell me what to do and then I'll go do it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. And also that speaks to bandwidth too, because you put so much into your business and what you do with other people and coaching them that, yeah, you would like to shut that off for a little bit, but still knowing, okay, well, my movement is important, but I don't want to design it. Okay, let someone else do that. Yeah, for 100%.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too. It's like, it could be a coach of any kind, right? When we talk about life coaches or money coaches, it's like, gone are the days of thinking that you hire a coach because you can't do something. No,
right.
Hire a coach because you want to do it better. And because they're going to have input, they're going to poke at your resistances. They're going to offer things that you just like, oh, I did not think about that. That's really smart. And again, the bandwidth part that it's like, in particular right now in pandemic, the bandwidth is so small, so much less, right? Yep. And that on Unicorn Wellness, it aims to help you with decision fatigue. Like you don't need to go in and poke around in workouts and choose what you're doing. There's a whole thing as a trainer about that. You just need to go let somebody take care of you.
Yep. Yes, exactly. And what you said about resistances, I'm just remembering a friend of mine who was so shocked when she heard me say that there are days I don't want to. She's like, wait, what do you mean? I thought you jumped out of bed, excited to work out and go run hill sprints and things. I mean, I do like hill sprints, but there's still days I don't want to, the resistance isn't necessarily that workout in particular. It's there's a sticking point that you have to give a little more effort to get over. And sometimes you won't want to do that, put that effort into it.
You're
And so,
human? Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
yeah. She was just so shocked, like, oh my God, that makes me feel so much better. But yeah, again, it's making sure you have the right support that helps you get past that sticking point, so to speak, or that resistance. Because if I didn't have any of that and left to your own devices, like, nah.
Covers are extra cozy today. Yeah, totally.
Right.
Okay, today has been so much fun. I would talk to you all the time, every day.
Yes.
I would, and kind of we do.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so again, all of the talking about coaching and the whole like aspect of things, but you have an online offering. Yes, you've had things that were online for the last year. It was not the rush to pandemic.
Right.
So we'll have links below for how to find you, because I'm super advocate for that integration. It's like, if you're going to do strength and conditioning, if you're going to run, like, please do it with Tilita, because then you're not going to be a hot mess when you come back to the mat.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, and I did mean to, not to take more time, but I did mean to just add a snippet to when you did say, when people decide to run, they're like, oh, I'll just go run 5 miles. I'll just go, because there's this sense that it's a innate or a natural thing. Like, we all can walk and we can all run. However, running itself is a skill. And so there's a way to do it well, so that you don't hurt yourself. Again, regardless if what the goal is. If you just love running and you do it for the solitude of it, or to get away and to think whatever, you still don't want to hurt yourself in it. And so just, having a little bit of guidance as far as that, and gradually building up, whether you're building up mileage, whether you're building up speed, both of them are things that have to be done thoughtfully, carefully. That's all.
I will
and I love doing that with people. That's why I was saying that.
Yeah, well, you're so good at it. It's like, what I love about your bio and you in general is that you really can approach any client, and you really do approach them with what they want their goal to be. Like, gold digger is real, but people still hear it, and I think they still get it's like, well, she's aiming at the Olympics, so I don't want to. It's like, well, you're not aiming at the Olympics. She's not going to coach you in that direction.
Right.
Like, no, stop it. And so using expertise as expertise, not that coaches or teachers are trying to create mini-me's, right? I think this is like the great disservice of Instagram. I love Instagram, but like all of the crazy poses and postures, they're beautiful. And when people can do them, that's great. There are bodies that are not designed or built or structured to do those things for all kinds of reasons. And this false expectation that when you train and when you coach, it's always for an elite level is like, I don't know when that came into play, but that's a hard one.
Right.
Because most of the time people just don't want to be in pain and would like to be more mobile and healthier and just be capable of it doesn't have to be a grand goal to be a valid goal.
Right.
And that, people are always shocked because they go, oh, I can't do all that. I'm like, I'm not asking you to do what I'm doing. You need to experience coaching and cueing, because it's actually about you.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yep. Yes. We could do a whole other hour on just that.
I think maybe you and I need like a coach's corner or something. I don't know.
Ooh, yeah. Ooh, I like that.
I know. So, well, I am always delighted to spend time with you.
It's 5 o'clock.
My soul is always so happy with it. But thank you so much for sharing you and your particular brand of magic in this world.
Thank you so much for inviting me and having me. Yeah, thank you.
We may just do it again. Yeah, I love you. And I just am so grateful to get to share you on a deeper level, and very selfishly to spend this time with you.
Yes, yes. And yes, ditto, ditto, ditto. I love you as well. It's, yeah, could go on about that, but it means a lot when you have people, and there's usually small handful of people that you connect with, but over a period of time.
Yeah.
So I'm, very happy to be still connected with you, and after 13 years, over 13 years.
And it hasn't been, I always like to mention these things too, because people sometimes will assume that like we're in each other's pocket all the time for 13 years, which is not the case. That's why I've said like we've come and gone for all kinds of reasons, for family and personal and for business and career. And as a member of Unicorn Wellness, you've come and gone for all kinds of, but like, and same thing, believe me, I'm like side-eyeing this, like another phone call with you about some things, because I don't want to program it for myself, but I feel it coming. And I'm like, but it's those soul conscious connections, right? When you know somebody is, one, intelligent, like beyond belief, right? Heart-centric in their work, and genuine, as well as very present. So that's like what the point I wanted to make about clients with you is that like you're an elite athlete that has spent your lifetime thus far aiming at the Olympics, with a lot of, I mean, not to like, it's not grand, it's true, with a lot of setbacks to it, where you're like, okay, what is happening? That has to become a universal question, of
Yes.
like spirit, what kind of lessons here?
Yep.
Meanwhile, because these are your goal paths and patterns, this does not mean that you're trying to train everybody to that. And on a personal level, I've bumped up against that a lot of like, I can't do that. I'm like, you're not supposed to.
Right. Right.
Or if you want to, it's just going to take a little bit. I'm happy to help you.
Right.
But being really clear that, again, when you find people that are really intelligent, super heart-centric, excellent at what they do, intentional and authentic and integrous, like, you better believe I'm gonna keep you in my pocket. Like, y'all are rare. So.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So for everyone listening, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share where you see fit in your communities to share Tilita, to share Unicorn Wellness, just good conversations with good women in the world. The links below are to connect with Coach T in all of the ways that call to you and resonate with you. Plus, you can explore Unicorn Wellness through guest access with a 14-day trial, the Unicorn Wellness Handbook on Amazon, and magical mentoring, or even a personal session with me. And all of those links are below. So thank you for spending this time with us. And I love you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you.